All right, guys. So you've probably been hearing some whispers or maybe even some loud cheers about 2024 being a stellar year for the stock market with dreams of investments just, shooting to the moon. Well, obviously the S&P 500 or at least the Dow Jones has been hitting all-time highs as of late, but I want to go ahead and unpack that. So sit tight. I want to dive into this with you guys, and I want to share with you guys what I think 2024 might actually hold for us. If you guys appreciate the content, hit the like button for the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below. It only takes about 10 seconds. So basically everybody's buzzing with excitement about this potential interest rate cut, actually multiple interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve, Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and how they might actually breathe some life back into the stock market. But as you've seen, the stock market's kind of already getting a little ahead of itself, but it's kind of like the entire finance community is just kind of gearing up for a party, right? But is it really all that champagne and confetti that we're anticipating for 2024? Maybe not. So, obviously it's good to be optimistic, and I'm an optimistic person, right? But we need to kind of we need to be realists at the same time, right? So there's a lot of things that's on the horizon that's not quite making it making it to the mainstream media, and I want to talk about that with you guys, right? So you guys remember that unwanted guest called inflation, right? Shows up at the party, uninvited. Yeah, well, inflation's still lurking around, all right? So the Federal Reserve's not signaling a full recovery yet, but they are talking about loosening up on the inflation control soon. And this could very well hit us with an entire unexpected spike in inflation again, possibly even in the housing market in terms of housing prices. And this is not necessarily the kind of comeback that we're hoping for, right? So let's look at the economic growth and how we could possibly be hitting the brakes here shortly. Now, we had a decent run in the past. I told you guys about how the Dow Jones just hit, all-time highs just recently. But word on the street, and by the street I mean economic forecasts, is that the GDP growth could screech to a halt in 2024. So less growth means fewer jobs. Fewer jobs means less spending. And this is not a good sign for the economy. So especially if you're in the retail space. But again, this is a realistic prediction in terms of people earning less money and spending less money. There's a girl who I stumbled across, and she was saying how she's working like 3 jobs and she was barely able to make ends meet. I want to get you guys' feedback on this. Let me know if you think that things are that bad right now, or is there more to this story? Take a listen.
Does anyone else feel like they're absolutely fucking drowning financially? As a single 29-year-old woman, I have 3 jobs and I'm still fucking struggling, and I'm just getting
3 jobs and you're still struggling? Like, first of all, what jobs do you have? And like, how many hours are you working per job? And like, what's the hourly rate? Are these like commission only? Are these like all 3 minimum wage jobs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I feel for her, but a part of me is just kind of like, is she being legit? Because I mean, she looked like she's crying. She's a little red in the face. She's a little puffy. But I'm not quite sure I'm convinced. I'm not sold. I don't know.
myself farther and farther into credit card debt because I don't have enough after the first of the month to avoid using it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. She's convincing. I mean, like I said, her eyes are, a little red. Her eyes are glazed over. Clearly she's frustrated. I don't know. 3 jobs.
It just isn't working. Full-time job, not doing it. Got a second job. It's barely doing it. The third job, hit or miss if I even get paid on time.
Wait, what job do you have where you're not getting paid on time? You working under the table?
Feel like I'm drowning and I don't know what to do. I don't know if any industry is doing well right now. I used to be a server. I used to have all this cash every night whenever I would work, walk out with cash. And I don't have that anymore. And I don't even know if they're doing okay.
Well, I mean, not all industries are doing poorly. In fact, there's a lot of industries that are actually doing pretty well. But I'm just thinking, like, even if you got cash every single day, if you're not making more money, then it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, if you got cash, let's just say you make $4,000 a month and you get paid every 2 weeks. So you get paid twice a week. Whether you get paid twice a week or you get paid daily, but your monthly income is still $4,000 for the month, it really doesn't matter if you get paid cash daily. If your net take home is the same, it don't matter the frequency that you get paid, really.
Right now. Like, I have seriously considered quitting my full-time good job to go back to serving, because at least I can just like use my personality and try to get more money than minimum wage or.
Man, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think on this one. You're gonna leave your full-time job to go back to serving. So I don't know how much her full-time job is paying. She didn't mention that, but I don't know. I'm not really convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm just not convinced. Let me see if there's any interesting comments here talking about this one. All right, here's some comments. Let's see. Take some financial management classes. Sounds like you need a serious budget to follow. Did you vote in the last election? I'm just trying to see if anybody's saying anything that makes any sense. If this person is for real, I think there is help for better circumstances. Certainly, she's not alone. It's funny how this person says, if this person is for real, meaning like I'm not the only person who thinks that this might be like an act. But here's the thing for me. Like, if you work in 3 jobs, if you live, all right, it might be her living conditions. Like maybe she lives in a very expensive city. Like if she lives in San Francisco, New York, Miami. Like if she lives in one of those places, she just needs to move. She needs to move to a less expensive cost of living area. I don't know what kind of car she's driving. Maybe she got a big car note or a very expensive car. Maybe she needs to downgrade her car. I mean, she clearly takes care of herself. I don't know if her, monthly maintenance for nails and hair and all that stuff is super expensive. But I personally think that with a good budget and maybe cutting back on some lifestyle expenses, she would probably be fine. But that's just my personal take. Let me know what you guys think on that one. We also got to look at these tighter credit squeeze, right? So banks are pretty much getting stingy with their lending, especially for the little guys, right? Small businesses. I don't know how many of you guys are small business owners, but have you tried to get a loan lately? So, this isn't just bad news for the local stores, maybe your local coffee shops and whatnot. It's kind of like a rain cloud over the entire economy's parade, right? And if you happen to be in real estate, it's been a wild ride. So whether you're a real estate agent, real estate investor, maybe you've bought or sold a house in the last little bit, houses sitting on the market for ages. And sellers living in a dream world with their prices. So there's no wonder why some of these houses are actually sitting on the market a lot longer than they used to be. And don't even get me started on like property taxes, right? It's like a real life episode of Price is Wrong, right? So anyway, here's something that's really scary. The commercial real estate market is teetering. And, interest rates, they're making it pretty tough to refinance. The rise of remote work isn't necessarily helping. It's keeping people away from the offices, and the fewer people in the offices, the fewer companies that are going to need to rent commercial real estate. And if the commercial real estate sector crashes, it's not going to just be a mess for property owners. It's going to be sending a shockwave through the entire economy. small banking lending. It's not just down. It's a trickle compared to what it used to be. You used to be able to get free money left and right. The federal government was like, the Fed was printing out money like no tomorrow. And a lot of that money has just completely dried up. And this spells a lot of trouble for everybody from your neighborhood bakery to the economy as a whole. Now, for most businesses, not all businesses, but for most businesses without loans, businesses can't afford to grow. They can't hire, or are just sometimes, having a difficult time to keep the lights on. Now, it depends on how you're running your business. Me personally, if you have to borrow money in order to do anything, generally speaking, your business isn't that strong. But some businesses they choose to finance a lot of their overhead, a lot of their day-to-day expenses. So, to each his own on that one. But then, of course, we got to consider the artificial intelligence part of the equation here. And so AI is still very, very new. And AI, artificial intelligence, it is definitely changing the game. And we're just pretty much like watching just to see how exactly AI is going to be reshaping industries and jobs. So a lot of people are worried and concerned, and we're actually kind of seeing some of it already, how AI is wiping certain jobs out. It's eliminating jobs, but it's also creating new jobs and new opportunities, and it's allowing some businesses to become more profitable. At the same time, it's also allowing some new businesses to literally be created out of thin air. So this could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending upon how you position yourself. So I always feel like, as long as I keep educating myself, I try to stay ahead of things. That way I can reposition myself and pivot if need be when it comes to, the marketplace. But it's definitely going to be exciting to see how things, unfold as we get into 2024. But, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unpredictable things. Like, there's the known knowns. In other words, the things that we already know, right? And then there's also things that we know about, but we don't know enough about them, right? So those are kind of like known unknowns. But then you also have unknown unknowns, and those are like things that you don't even know could be a problem, and then they surprise you, right? So it's like the completely unexpected things could happen in our economy going forward. But anyway, so I mean, bottom line is we've been through a lot lately, pandemics, economic roller coasters, it's kind of left us in a lot of it's kind of left us in an area of uncharted territory, really. And it makes predicting the future just trickier than ever. For me, I've actually become a lot more conservative, but everybody's got a theory. But the truth is the future is just not very clear. But what I have done is I've just become way more conservative. I save more money. I increased my emergency fund, beyond what it used to be. Most people aim for 3 to 6 months. That's not enough for me. I look to stash years of expenses in advance just to make sure that, if crap really hits the fan, we're ready. But anyway, inflation it's still a very sticky situation. The Fed says that, CPI is down to what, like around 3%, something like that. But inflation, it's not just about the price of the goods. It's about the price of services as well. And, goods might be taking a little bit of a breather, but the services, they're still strong. You got to remember, services are less likely to come down compared to goods because services are literally people's labor. It's like how much someone's earning per, depending upon how much, people charge for labor. So labor is way less likely to come down. And honestly, I really don't think it will come down. But this means that, pretty much everything from, your landscaper to plumbing to healthcare, pretty much everything could keep getting pricier because at the end of the day, these are people just like me and you dealing with high prices. So I just don't see inflation in the service sector coming down anytime soon, and certainly not the prices. So Anyway, but London's housing market just took a nosedive. In fact, it's one of the worst nosedives that we've seen or that they have seen since 2009. And it's kind of a sneak peek of what could possibly happen elsewhere. I know we're not in London, but if you think about pandemic days, if you think about the economic recession, the Great Recession in 2008, what we saw overseas impacted us here at home. So I don't ignore what's going on just because, it's not in the United States. It may not directly affect us, but what we're seeing over there oftentimes is a precursor to what we could be seeing here. So I like to see what other people are doing over there. And that way I can kind of like preemptively strategize on what I could possibly do to protect myself and my family should we end up seeing a similar circumstance over here. So that's just my take on that. But again, interest rates, they're pretty much scaring off buyers and it's making prices go down. It's making homes sit on the market longer and longer and longer. I mean, just think about it. As interest rates go up, it's just making the cost to buy a home tremendously more expensive. And have you ever heard of like the inverted yield curve? Well, it's basically when long-term debts pay less interest than the short-term ones. And I know it sounds boring, but apparently it's a big deal in the finance world, right? And I've always heard about this inverted yield curve for years, and I never really knew what it meant. But basically, it's flipping the mortgage world upside down, and it's making adjustable rate mortgages more expensive than the fixed rate ones. It's kind of weird, right? But it's like, and what's really weird is like, adjustable rate mortgages are usually like the teaser type of loan that banks will offer, because generally speaking, the adjustable rate mortgages have a lower teaser rate to get you in on it compared to the fixed rate mortgages. And then it'll adjust after like maybe 3 years or adjust after 5 or 7 years. Anyway, those adjustable rate mortgages now are actually more than the fixed rate loan. So I don't see anybody with a brain taking those loans out right now. I mean, heck, I wouldn't take them out when they were lower than the fixed rate mortgages. It's just way too much risk in my opinion. But just, let me know what you guys are thinking about today's economy. Drop me some comments down below if you guys appreciate the conversation. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out my previous videos, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one.